לרבות טלפונים, אם מישהו שולח טלפון אז בוודא שהוא כבוי. Good afternoon. Good. Good and everything good. So the seventh point, the seventh and the last point is the precepts of mind training. Meaning that having studied the mind training, there are some precepts that you must adopt and practice as much as possible. I don't know the difference much between the commitments and the precepts. So I think basically there are things that you need to adopt and practice, whether you call it commitment or you call them precepts. So precepts here primarily means that you should train in those means and methods which will help your mind training practice not to decline but prosper and develop. Okay? The first one is every yoga should be performed as one, or every yoga should be done by one. Every yoga is not so much about physical yoga, but yoga here means a correct path. A correct path. Yoga and the English word yoke, very similar. Yoke means to bring two things together. Yoga also to bring two things together. So whatever correct spiritual practices you are undertaking, they should all be done with one thing in mind. That is, whatever practice you do, you should do that with a wish to benefit others. So the wish to benefit others is the key thing. Whether you do spiritual practice or whether you do your regular job, whatever you do, it's really important to have this mind, the wish to benefit others. Just as you have this wish for yourself to get the benefit, okay? Similarly, it's important whatever work you do that wish to benefit others. So that means whether even when you are eating food or wearing your clothes, or any other spiritual practice, you should do that with a wish to benefit others. So now you can see how, if you do that, how extensive that practice can be. It can be applied in all levels of your way of life. It is said that the Buddhas, even when they breathe for the benefit of other sentient beings. The very life, the very breathing is for the benefit of other sentient beings. Even when you eat food, normally according to Buddhist teaching, before you eat food, you make an offering. and you do some prayers, like the prayer by Nagarjuna where he says, the food should be seen as a medicine. It should be enjoyed without attachment, without hatred, without wish to become big and bulky and to become arrogant and proud, but simply for survival. And what is the purpose of survival? To again eat? No. Huh?
To benefit others.
Exactly, to benefit others. That's the very purpose of human life. Okay? So if that is not there, then everything will go wrong. Religious practice will also go wrong. If you have that, even politics can be religious practice.
So food is only for survival?
Huh?
Food is only for survival?
Only for survival means it's for primarily for survival. And survive for what?
What about enjoying the meal? The food?
This will come. This will come. If you have this wish to benefit others and wish to survive and live, then you enjoy everything. You enjoy everything. If you don't have this wish to live, then you cannot enjoy. Look, let me give you the example of family members. If the family members are living in harmony, then even when the father or mother who goes to work, as soon as they finish their work, they quickly want to go to the home. Because you love your kids, your family members, and you also want to live as long as possible, if they are in harmony. If they are not in harmony, even when you finish your work, you might not come back home quickly. You can tell all stories. Oh, I met this friend. Oh, I had a lot of work to do. You can tell all kind of lies, Are you familiar with that?
Yes, very.
It's like that, you see. So therefore, when you realize that not only surviving, but I'm of so much benefit to others, then you really feel like living. There is a purpose. That's the meaning. Otherwise, it's like only air coming in and out. So what is there? Breathing means air coming in and out. Just air coming in and out. Not much purpose. So that's the meaning of every yoga should be performed by one. This one says as one. There are two activities to be done at the beginning and end. That means in the morning, you should develop a motivation thinking that I will ensure that my mind is not separated from the practice of the two bodhicittas. And throughout the whole day, whatever activities you are doing, you make sure that your mind has that recollection, that remembrance. And in the evening when you sleep, or in the evening before you sleep, you reflect back how you led your life in the day. And if you have acted against the practice of bodhicitta, then you should say, oh bad, that was wrong, I didn't do a good job. And then you should regret and confess and develop a wish that you will not repeat this again in the coming days. And if you find that you have not contradicted the teaching of the bodhicittas, then you rejoice, you feel happy. Okay? And then you should think that I will continue in the same way in the coming days also. This could also be interpreted, like for example, not in your regular practice, but even if you do say 2-3 hours of meditation, Then in the beginning you develop motivation, in the end you dedicate whatever you have done for the benefit of others. So whatever you do, you should start with a good motivation and conclude with dedication. So dedication is like putting your money in the bank. There will be some interest. In Israel, do you get interest? Some interest?
Yes.
Little?
Yes.
3%?
That's a lot.
Huh?
That's a lot.
Really? Ah. In India, last year they were giving 10%.
Wow.
What? We're coming
Yeah.
to
And
India.
the inflation, and the inflation was,
Huh?
and the inflation was, and the inflation was what percentage, you know?
Yeah, not much. And even now they give 8%, 8.3%, 30%, 8.5%. So if your money, put it in my bank. Okay? I will send you the interest and keep the rest. Because you are interested in the interest. Huh? Then the next, train first in the easier practices. Train first in the long day. Huh? I know. Train first in the easier practices. A lot of. Geshe is sleeping or what?
No, now you need to do a review.
Acha. Then I don't find these things here. Anyway, then according to the Tibetan text, Lona Thambichi Kisha. Okay, so the next is train first in the easier practices. I don't see that in this Tibetan. I don't see that in this Tibetan text, but the meaning is not so difficult to understand. Train in the easier practices. That means in the beginning when you do this mind training practice, it is always better to start with those practices which you can do, which is easier. Okay? Otherwise you might think, oh, it's so difficult, I can't do.
Maybe it's only for Westerners. No?
Huh?
That's why it's only in the English.
This one?
This one only for Westerners.
I think so. Especially in the Hebrew translation, is it there? Train first in the easier practices. Okay?
As we mentioned before, that if to tackle the strongest issue in us first, no? I
Yes.
don't remember where it was.
Predominant.
Predominant negative emotion. Yeah.
Right. So that's contradicting it, no?
There's not contradictory.
No?
No. Because you are talking about negative emotions, which is something within you. So you know you easily know which one has a predominant presence. So that way it's easier to identify. Okay? Okay? Yeah. It's easier to identify and also it's very urgent to deal with it. Okay? Next is whichever occurs, be patient with both. So two things. That means, one, if you are continuously successful, your name is increasing, fame is increasing, money is increasing, friends are increasing, then there is a risk. When everything is flourishing, there is a risk. In one place in Tibet, there is a story of three brothers. There were three brothers, and each of these brothers had so many sons, So everybody was admiring, what a big family, so many strong sons, But one of these three brothers, he always used to feel sad. He said, why you are feeling sad? Why you are complaining when everything is flourishing? You are such a strong family, so many brothers, so many, sons. He said, no. When everything is flourishing, then there is a reason to be careful. So like that, you see. Because whatever goes up has to come down. And Nagarjuna in his letter to the friend says that the more wealth you have, or the more relatives you have, ordinarily it looks good, more wealth you have, more friends you have. You can make a show of it. But the reality is, the more friends and wealth you have, the more suffering and trouble you are going to get. And he gives the example of the king of the Naga, which means snake. Okay? So it is said that ordinary snakes have only one head. You have seen the snakes, one head. But the king of Naga said to have many heads, hoods, many heads. So ordinarily it looks good. He is the king, has so many heads. But the risk is that because he has so many heads, today this head may be okay, but this head is hurt. This head is sick. But the others who have one head, much less risk. So those of you who have big families today, you are okay, your brother is not okay. Your brother is okay, your brother's wife is not okay. Like that, you see. The more you have, so nothing comes value free. Nothing comes value free, something like that. So one has to be careful. Even Mao Zedong, it is said that when he was an ordinary peasant, he was willing to do a lot of things for the good of people. But when he became the leader, he got intoxicated by the power. And then during his time, during his rule, 70 million people died. 70 million. I'm not saying he killed, but died. Killing or torture or starvation, whatever. 70 million. Like that. So, when you are flourishing, you need to be careful. Don't get arrogant and proud. You should think, this may be due to my past life's good karma. So now also I should use these facilities to do more good things. The advantage of having so many things is that you can really help many people instead of storing and keeping everything for yourself. What are you going to do to keep all these things for yourself? You have only one stomach, how much you can eat? You see? Really? And His Holiness sometimes jokingly tells people, even if you are very rich and can wear 10 diamond rings and put one diamond ring on each finger, it doesn't look nice. You see? So really, it's excessive baggage. But if you use it for others, you can sponsor education of a child, you can look after orphans, so many good things you can do. Then the second thing is, so on those occasions you should practice some kind of contentment, tolerance and patience. Don't get too arrogant, with understanding that all these things are illusion. Wealth, name, fame, whatever you have, it's going to go soon. It's an illusion, It's like a dream. Then on the other hand, it's also possible that you become very poor in terms of friends, in terms of wealth, and you become so low that probably the one thing that goes underneath your feet is water and nothing else. You are very low. You are very low. But still the teaching says don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. And because you should again see that this is also an illusion. You know, there's no need for me to get discouraged. So whether you are successful or not successful, happy or not happy, in all those occasions, you remember these practices of bodhicitta. There's one teacher who wrote a book just praising the bodhicitta. And he says, if you are unhappy, practice bodhicitta. If you are happy, practice bodhicitta. If you are living, practice bodhicitta. If you are dying, practice bodhicitta. If you are sick, practice bodhicitta. If you are healthy, practice bodhicitta. It's really like panacea, you know, medicine that cures all illnesses. And the self-cherishing attitude is really like a aconite, the worst kind of poison that destroys your happiness and happiness of every others. So that's why this is the subject matter of this mind training teaching. Guard both at the cost of your life. Guard both, protect both at the cost of life. Both means two. So which of the two we should guard at the cost of your life? One, the general pledges and commitments in relation to your general practice. In your general Buddhist practices, there are certain commitments and pledges. So you should protect them. It's not enough that you are very brave in saying that I will do this and then very coward in doing the practice. Okay? So first you should examine carefully whether you can do it or not. And once you have examined and made a commitment, then it's very important to do that. So that's the first pledge that you need to guard. Second, you should guard the pledges of this mind training, the commitments and precepts of this mind training. Because without these two practices, it is impossible to get any genuine peace and happiness in this life and in the lives to come. So these two pledges therefore must be guarded, protected, even at the cost of your life. Train in the three difficulties. So if you are not satisfied with the easier practices, here you go. Train in the three difficult practices. I am sure this is not in the Hebrew translation, no? Train in the three difficulties. That means three difficulties are, first of all, it is very difficult to remember or recognize that the afflictive emotions are arising in us. You may not even know it. You are so habituated with these afflictive emotions, when they are there in you, you may not recognize them. You may not remember or recollect them. It's difficult. So try to recollect, identify that now you are angry. Now you are having attachment. Now you are jealous. So remember that this is like identifying or recognizing the enemy. If you don't recognize the enemy, how are you going to shoot him? You see? So you need to recognize the enemy as enemy. So that's difficult. So train in that difficult practice of recognizing the arisal of afflictive emotions within yourself. And even if you are able to recognize its arisal, the second difficult thing is, because you are so habituated with these afflictive emotions, it will be very difficult for you to stop it. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it says that if you get habituated with the afflictive emotions, then later on it will be very difficult to stop it, even when you apply antidotes. So as soon as and when attachment, etc. arises, you should immediately stop them. Immediately, as soon as the negative emotions pop up their ugly head, you hit them. That's what the text says. 37 Bodhisattva practices says that. And then finally, the third difficult practice is to completely put an end to the continuity of the afflictive emotions. You can stop manifesting it, but to completely sever the continuity of the afflictive emotion is very difficult. So therefore the third practice is to make effort to not only suppress the manifestation of afflictive emotion, but also to stop its continuity. Okay. So, as we have already discussed, you can start doing this with one of the negative emotions which has a predominant presence within you, and then you see within the passage of time how much that afflictive emotion has decreased. If you used to be a very angry person, then try to practice, and then over time you will find that it is really becoming less. Then that's a very good sign, very good progress. Okay, that's important. So this one is also not there in the Tibetan. What is there in the Tibetan is not in English. Transform everything into the great vehicle path. I mean, that's understandable. It's not in the Tibetan text, but that means your main practice is bodhicitta. And when you cultivate this wish to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, that makes you a practitioner of the great vehicle. Mahayana we call it, great vehicle. So that's the meaning. Transform everything into the great vehicle path means the great vehicle path is the path of the bodhisattvas, where you develop bodhicitta, which aspires to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So whatever practicing you are doing, not only you try to do that practice to benefit others, but you should do that practice to benefit all sentient beings, all mother sentient beings, to help them achieve enlightenment. That is the great vehicle path. Value and encompassing and far-reaching practices. That means when you undertake this mind training practice, you do that